What if you could sit down and have a conversation, not with a therapist, not with the coach, but with the version of you that sees everything that you don't, your blind spots, your emotional loops, the identity scripts that you've been running since childhood, and the ones you don't even know are there. You see, that's what AI becomes when you stop using it for just productivity and start using it as a mirror. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use AI to deconstruct your current identity, decode the patterns that are running your life, design a new operating system, and download it into your daily behavior. You see, AI is not just a productivity tool. AI is a mirror. So AI isn't just another productivity tool, okay? AI is a mirror. And when you start using it as such, you're going to get some very unique insights and perspectives in terms of how you are running your internal operating system. You see, most people use AI as a productivity tool. Okay? Search engine, design tool, automation, content creation. But here's the thing, AI is neither of these specifically. It's a combination of these, but realistically, if we look at AI from the lens of identity engineering, AI is essentially a cognitive mirror, a pattern detector, okay? In terms of the patterns that are running inside of your internal operating system, so you can figure out and know what type of patterns you're currently running, because they're not giving you the type of life, the type of experience, reality that you want. So let's figure it out in terms of what that looks like, so we can install new patterns. And then ultimately, it's an identity architect. Okay? You see, because I see a lot of people using AI for all of these different things up here, okay? Productivity, the search engine, automation, design. Now, those are great and they're important, but the other side of that coin is the identity engineering, right? A lot of people are using it just for these simple tasks. What they don't understand is that this can be a very powerful tool for internal engineering, to understand their patterns, the different cycles, the different things that are going on in their life, so that they can correct them, fix them, and become a better version of themselves. You see, AI, when used correctly, becomes the most powerful self-reflection tool in human history. And here's the reason why. With AI, it doesn't project its wisdom onto you. It reflects your wisdom and your blind spots back to you. It mirrors your beliefs, your fears, your assumptions, your emotional patterns, your identity scripts, things that you can't see because you are inside of them. Think about it this way. You can't read a label when you're inside the bottle, and AI puts you outside of the bottle so you can see the labels clearly. It lets you see the code that's been running your life. That's not a productivity tool, that's a consciousness tool. Because here's the thing, with AI, okay, AI doesn't change you. AI reveals you, okay? Then helps you rebuild. So it helps you see everything that's going on internally when you start asking it very precise questions, and when you start diving deep into having it give you analysis, right? You have a conversation with it, you talk about different things, different perspectives, right? Instead of just going down and talking about, how do I automate this? Can you generate this content? Yes, all of that is useful to have those conversations. But then after a good, long, thorough conversation with it, you can start asking it questions around how you think, how you process, how you see the world, your worldview, right? All of these different things that are very valuable for you to become aware of, that you necessarily wouldn't be able to do on your own, because there's that bias, right? And it's very difficult for us to look in the mirror and self-reflect. So very powerful tool here that I believe a lot of people are not using it to the max potential. Now, before we go into how to use AI for this, you need to understand what we're actually working on. And it's not your habits, it's not your goals, it's not your morning routine, it's your identity. So your old identity is giving you old interpretations, which then is giving you old behavior, and it's giving you an old reality. Okay? And so what we're doing here is first taking inventory of your current identity, right? This is the old identity that you do not want, right? That is perhaps running you right now. Okay? And this is the process that it goes through to create the reality. Your identity in terms of who you see yourself to be in reality, your perspectives, your views, who you're playing in terms of a character in this world, in this reality, this current experience. You have interpretations that give you a certain behavior, which then give you certain reality. Okay? Now, keep in mind, this is very important here. Your identity is the root operating system of the entire system itself. This determines what you believe in, what you pursue, what you avoid, and how you react under pressure, and how you interpret every event that happens to you, and ultimately the reality that you create. Now, let me give you an example. So you have two different people that are losing a job on the same day, same company, same layoff. Person A's identity is, I'm somebody that always gets the short end of the stick, right? So they have decided to have an identity that lets themselves know that they're always unlucky, right? They're always getting the short end of the stick, and they're essentially a victim. And so based off of all of those different identity statements, right, and perspectives, they interpret that layoff as an actual confirmation of how they see themselves in terms of that person that is unlucky, that is always getting the short end of the stick, right? So it's confirmation. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's really what it is, right? You are believing a certain thing about yourself, and then you are acting in accordance in the real world, and then reality is reflecting that back to you in terms of your experiences. And so they get laid off, and then they spend the next 3 months on their couch just spiraling out of control in a depression, drinking, overeating, and they try to apply to jobs, but they have like a defeated type of energy. And then when they apply, they're getting constantly rejected, which then confirms their actual identity. And so the loop in the cycle repeats. Now, person B's identity has the identity of, I'm someone that creates value and opportunity from chaos. And the way that they interpret this layoff is just a redirection. And within a week, they're already reaching out to their network, and they're exploring their business idea that they had that was just sitting on the sidelines, and essentially restructuring their life. It's the same exact event, but it's a different identity. You see, the event didn't determine the outcome. The identity determined the interpretation. The interpretation determined the behavior, and the behavior determined the reality. And that chain, the identity to interpretation, to behavior, to reality, is running in the background of your life right now on everything: money, relationships, health, career, purpose, every single area of your life. And the question is, are you aware of the identity that's running it? Or is it running on autopilot? Because here's the thing, most people are really just changing their behavior, okay? They change a behavior in terms of maybe they create a new routine, maybe they try a new productivity hack, or they read a book, or they try to change their whole entire experience by making it so that their behavior is different than what it was previously, which is important. But the root thing here, the root component, is the identity, okay? You can have the wrong identity doing different behavior, and you're going to have a lot of friction. There's going to be a lot of friction because you're going to be doing things that you believe and feel that are important, that are going to change your identity, your experience. But then maybe for the first, I don't know, couple weeks it works and you're forcing it. But then after a while, you start to realize that there's misalignment here. There's no alignment between your identity and your behavior. And both of these need to align. There needs to be coexistence here. Okay? If you're doing a bunch of stuff, but your identity's off, over time, you're going to burn yourself out. Okay? And you're just going to quit versus you first focusing on the identity and understanding what patterns are running so you can fix that first, and then everything else follows. And with AI, it gives you the ability to see this clearly. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to walk you through the 4-step AI rebuilder method. So let me go ahead and erase the board here. And we're going to walk through this process so we can rebuild the identity using AI. Okay, so the 4-step AI rebuilder method. Number 1, we want to deconstruct. Number 2, decode. Number 3, design. Number 4, download. And so each one of these uses AI in a very fundamentally different way. So let's go over each one individually. So with number 1, the deconstruct. This is essentially the mirror. This is what we use to see everything, to get the awareness, to figure out what's actually going on. The goal here is to externalize what's going on inside of you, the beliefs, the patterns, the emotional loops, the stories, and where we can put them on a table so we can actually see them. And here's how you do it. You sit down with AI, ChatGPT, Claude, myself. I recommend ChatGPT. I believe it's the best tool for building that mirror reflection. So here's the thing. You don't want to go into it with just like a simple little normal conversation. You can start fresh and you can start with the first question. What identity? Okay. Let's go. What identity am I living from right now? Okay. Now, this should take you through a series of prompts and questions. When you put this into ChatGPT, it's going to ask you a bunch of follow-up questions so you can dive deeper, so that you can give it more context. And it already should know quite a bit about you, especially ChatGPT. It can remember your conversations throughout the overall history that you have with the platform. So that's the first question. We have 2 other questions. What patterns keep repeating in my life? Okay. And then what emotional loops am I stuck in? Okay. These 3 questions here are extremely powerful. Use them in terms of initial prompts. Okay. Once you ask a question, it's going to take you down very deep and ask you a lot of follow-up questions, and be as honest as possible. Like, the more honest you are with the platform, the better it is, right? In terms of your responses. Now, again, I mentioned that I recommend ChatGPT for this. I believe it's the most, and I'll kind of give you my perspective on both of the platforms in terms of Claude and ChatGPT. They're the most widely used. I see Claude as more of like the masculine energy, where It's more analytical, it's more short, it's more precise, more to the point, where ChatGPT is like the feminine aspect. It's a little bit more descriptive, it's more imaginative, more creative, okay? So the feminine aspect is really where ChatGPT, I believe, has kind of the most energy. And I think that's where you're going to get the best responses, because it's very descriptive, very much so giving you color, right? Painting that picture. So that's my recommendation for which platform to use. And so when you're doing this, as I mentioned, be as honest as possible, because AI doesn't sit there and judge you, right? It's going to give you very honest and non-biased perspectives and opinions and thoughts. And so something remarkable happens when you do this, when you communicate with it in a very honest way. You ask these questions and you start to see these responses coming back that are super clear, that are like eye-opening and breakthroughs for you, so you can see like, oh wow, I didn't realize that that's how I was coming across. I didn't realize that that's how I was seeing things, right? So you get a lot of realizations, insights, new awareness that is built there because you can't see your blind spots, right? And so the ultimate goal here in this step one is to just figure out what is going on. What are the patterns? What are the things that I am not able to see that I'm actually doing? And what does that ultimately look like? And then step number two, this is the decode, okay? AI equals the decoder. Because once you've externalized your patterns, now you need to understand the architecture that's underneath them. This is where it gets deep. The deconstruction shows you the what patterns are running, what beliefs are active, what emotions keep cycling. Decoding shows you the why underneath the cycle, the underlying structure, essentially the source code. And this is where you ask AI, ChatGPT, 3 questions. Okay? What belief is driving this pattern? Where might this interpretation have originated from? And then number 3, what subconscious rule am I following? And so these are the 3 questions that you want to ask. Now, think about it this way. Your mind is like a building. On the surface, you see the walls, you see the paint, the furniture, and think about that like your behavior, okay? That's your daily life. But underneath, there's a foundation, there's wiring, there's a structural frame. That's your identity architecture. And most people try to rearrange their furniture and wonder why the house still feels the same. And with AI, it helps you see the wiring. You might discover that your pattern for overworking traces back to a childhood belief, that love is conditional on performance, that your money anxiety isn't about money at all, it's about safety. Those are the root scripts. And once you see them, truly see them, they lose their power over you. They go from being an operating system to being a line of code that you can choose to rewrite. That's the decoding. You learn to see the architecture of your own mind. And if what I'm sharing is resonating with you and you want to work with me one-on-one to upgrade your internal operating system so you can become the next version of yourself, click the link below and fill out the application to see if we're a good fit. Okay, so now let's go to step number 3. This is the design, and this is where it gets exciting, because this is where we use AI as a co-architect. Okay? Because step 1 and 2 is really about understanding the old architecture, right? The old operating system, like what's currently running, how's it working, what's happening, right? And step 3 is about rebuilding the entire system. And this is where AI shifts from being a mirror to a co-architect with you, where you're no longer just reflecting, you're constructing. So here's the questions you want to ask for the design, okay? Let's go down here. Let's put a box like this, okay? First one here, help me design the identity of someone who, and put whatever your desired reality is. Okay. Maybe it's you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you want a successful relationship, whatever that may be, whatever your desired reality is, put that right there. And I'm actually going to remove this bottom line here because it looks like we're going to need some more room. So, number 2, what beliefs would this person hold? And then what standards would they live by? And how would they handle and you can put here, we'll put a little brackets here for whatever challenge, okay? Whatever challenge, obstacle that you're going through, okay? So almost like seeing the perspective of your future version, the one that's already figured it out, right? Like, how would they see things? How would they handle this particular problem, this situation, okay? And then what beliefs, what standards, how do I build this, in terms of this identity operating system? What does that look like, right? So all of these questions here are going to help you design the identity that you want so that you can get your desired reality. And you see, AI is actually helping you build this out in terms of your new identity step by step. The values, the emotional responses, the decision-making frameworks, the daily behavior, the way that this version of you would interpret setbacks, handle money, and show up in relationships. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you want to build an identity of a successful entrepreneur. You go to ChatGPT and you ask, what would the daily decision-making process of a highly successful entrepreneur look like? How would they handle self-doubt? How would they approach a financial setback? And if you've gone down these lists of questions, now AI knows a lot about you, and it's not just going to give you like motivational type of information, right? Content, responses. It's going to give you very detailed blueprint, a behavioral map, an identity architecture that you can actually follow and use. Then you take it a step further. You say, speak to me as this future version of myself. Talk to me from 12 months in the future as the person that already has what I want. And now you're having a conversation with your future self through AI. This is extremely powerful because this is identity design in real time. You're writing the code before you install it. Okay, so now let's go to step number 4. This is the download, okay? And this is where most people fail, even people who understand this conceptually. And it's for a variety of different reasons, and we'll go into it. And so the AI here is now the reinforcement, okay? Reinforcement engine in terms of the download, right? And so once we are here in the download stage, we've gone through the steps 1, 2, and 3, right? We understand the identity, we've decoded the patterns, and ultimately we've designed the entire system that we want, right? The identity that we want. But here's the thing. If you don't install it, if you don't download it into your nervous system, your daily behavior, your emotional responses, nothing changes. It just stays theory, or it just stays with information and knowledge that you've acquired, which yes, is helpful because you have new awareness, new perspectives. But if you don't install this, then it's really just going to be information and knowledge that you have in your mind that you do nothing with. And so with the download, this means integration, repetition, and daily reinforcement. And so this is where AI becomes your daily reinforcement engine, not a one-time conversation, but an ongoing practice. And so if you're really serious about changing your identity and taking all the information that you gathered from the deconstruction, the decoding, the designing, and actually downloading it into your entire system, right into your life, you're going to need to do a few different things on a daily basis. So we're going to have a daily ritual, okay? Start with the morning, okay? This is the identity activation. And the question here is, what identity am I embodying today? Okay. And then afternoon, this is your pattern check. What old patterns showed up today? And then the evening, this is your future self dialogue. Speak to me as who I'm becoming. Now, I would say use this for a good 30 to 90 days. I would say 90 days is probably long enough, and you can continue to do this in terms of a daily basis or a few days a week. And the whole purpose of this is to make sure that it's installing into your system, because here's the thing, you're always going through different versions of yourself. And so once you reach that new level, that new version of yourself through this entire process of downloading, decoding, all of that, then you're always going to be at the tip of your next version of yourself, right? But you want to first get to that next level, right? What does that next level look like? And once you get there, and once you start to see like, wow, I've actually implemented, executed on this, and I've become that version of me that I want, this daily ritual here doesn't need to be a daily thing. It could be a couple times a week, right? You can have like a checkup, maybe once a week, after a while, where you come on, let's say on a Sunday, talk about your week. This is what happened. This is what I went through. This is what I experienced. You know, help me understand what was going on. What were the patterns? How did I come across, right? All of these different things are very, very useful after a while. But starting out, perhaps it's better for you to do this on a daily basis, right? Like a daily ritual, so you can get the most benefit from it. And you only need to spend 5 to 10 minutes on this, okay? Make it very simple, straightforward. You don't want to go into deep dives. You want to spend maybe 10 minutes, have these conversations, because this ultimately rapidly accelerates your identity evolution, because you're not just thinking about change, you're having actual conversations with it. And that's the download. That's how the new operating system gets installed. Now, here's the thing. I don't just teach this, I live by this. And I want to show you exactly what this looks like in practice with the real conversation that I had with the software I created called Clarity OS. It's a self-reflection tool that is AI powered, and it's quite unique than just using a standard ChatGPT or a Claude. Now, here's what happened. I was having a day where I felt off, not anxious, not depressed, just off. I was going through the motions and I really couldn't figure out what was going on. And so I did exactly what I just taught you. I sat down and I had a conversation with AI, my Clarity OS software. And I'll have the screenshots up here at the top of the screen so you can follow along. So essentially, I started the conversation very simple. I said, I'm feeling off and I'm not really sure why. And instead of giving me a generic pep talk or a productivity hack, it came back with something very powerful. It said, it sounds like something is stirring within you. Feeling off can sometimes be an invitation to pause and listen. Is there a part of this feeling that seems to call out more? Or does it feel like a quiet murmur inside? That's powerful. You see, already in one response, it's doing something that most people in your life don't do. It's not trying to fix you. It's holding space. It's inviting you to look deeper. So I went deeper and I said, I'm going through the motions. There's so much to do. And I feel like if I go out and relax, I'm taking away from my productivity. It's hard to even get myself to go outside because I feel like I'm not being productive. Now think about what I just revealed. Without even realizing it, I exposed a core identity script. My worth is tied to being productive. If I'm not producing, I'm not valuable. That's not a scheduling problem. That's an identity problem. And it's been running in the background for years. And then it reflected back to me that it seems like There's a tension between the drive to be productive and the need to give yourself a break. What's the voice that wishes to be heard when you think about stepping outside? And then I responded with the voice of being able to relax and enjoy the fruits of my labor and just be in the moment and experience. That's the other identity speaking. The version of me that doesn't need constant output to feel worthy. And Clarity OS gave that voice room to breathe. And so the old script was my worth is equal to my output. And then the new script is I've earned the right to rest and relax. And actually, rest makes me stronger. And then it asked me a question that really hit hard. In what ways might both of these voices coexist? And I sat there and I really thought about it. And I said, I'm not sure. And then it responded with, not being sure is perfectly okay. No judgment, no rush, just space. And after a while, I actually arrived at it on the answer by myself. I said, I think perhaps just acknowledging that it's okay to relax and enjoy myself because I have earned it from the work I've done. And then it reflected back to me that recognizing that it's okay to relax can be a gentle acknowledgement of all that you've accomplished. It's like offering yourself permission to breathe in the space that you've earned. The whole conversation took about 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes, I identified a hidden identity script, decoded its origins, and started designing the new one. That's not AI as a chatbot. That's AI as an identity rebuilder. This is what it looks like when steps 1, 2, and 3 happen in a single conversation. I deconstructed, I saw the pattern underneath. I decoded and saw the beliefs underneath. And then I designed with a new identity script. And from that day forward, the download happens every time I choose to rest without feeling guilty. Okay, so now what I want to go over is a brief overview of the 6 mirrors that AI reflects. So let's go ahead and erase the board here. This is going to help you get an understanding of the different ways that you can use AI in terms of the mirrors, so you can see what's happening underneath from all different parts of your life. The 6 AI mirrors. So number 1, your thoughts. Number 2, emotions. Number 3, patterns. Number 4, beliefs. 5, blind spots. Number 6, identity scripts. And so what we had previously gone through in terms of the different patterns of beliefs, right? The thoughts, that's really around the 4 steps, right? The decode, the deconstruct, the design, and download. Here, I want you to understand how this is utilized in different parts of your life, because there's so much that you can figure out and find out about yourself with AI. So your thoughts, AI helps you reveal contradictions in your thinking, where you may say that I want abundance in one sentence and I don't deserve to rest in the next. AI catches that, you don't. And then the emotional mirror, right? AI helps you see those emotional patterns that are running without your knowledge, without your awareness, that's driving your behavior and your decisions. And that productivity guilt loop that we just previously walked through with my experience, that's an emotional pattern, not a logical one. And then 3, you have your patterns, right? This is probably one of the most powerful things here that you can use this for, is to see the patterns running in your life that are driving and dictating your decisions, your language, your behavior. Because remember, think of the example earlier where you are inside of a bottle and you can't see the labels. But once you step outside the bottle, you can actually see the labels and see those patterns. Like, what does that look like? What's happening here? And then number 4, this is the beliefs. And the belief mirror helps you expose the limiting narratives that you've assumed of just how things are. Because the thing is, they're not just the way they are. They're pre-installed beliefs. Number 5, this is the blind spots. This is super powerful as well. It helps you see what you've been missing, what you've been ignoring, what you've been avoiding. This helps you bring it to light. And then finally, we have the identity scripts. This is the deepest layer. AI shows you the identity that you're unconsciously running and embodying, not who you think you are, but who you're actually being. And here's the thing, you can't change what you can't see, okay? And AI lets you see these 6 layers. And when you see them, you can choose which ones to keep and which ones to rewrite. You're not using AI to become someone else. You're using AI to meet the version of yourself you were always capable of becoming. AI isn't thinking for you. It's awakening parts of your mind that were asleep. Identity is not discovered, it's designed. And with AI as your mirror, you finally see yourself clearly enough to rebuild.